All-Hallows-Eve is a night of wonder and mystery in Ireland, for, on that night, the veil that hides the future may be illuminated dimly and fearfully, peered through by the help of a strange and mystic arts and charms. On that night, the fairies hold high revel on the moonlit rath, and Irish peasants hastening to join the merry throng gathered around the fire, the hospitable farmhouse, must travel in strong company and hurry past the churchyard with averted eyes, for then may spirits return from the regions of air to revisit past scenes they once loved, and wield strange power for good or evil over mortals. In Ireland, every night of the year is, in a sense, an All-Hallows-Eve. For, more than any race on earth, the Celt is imbued with a deep and reverent sense of the supernatural, which walks with him in his daily paths and haunts his dreams at night. The Germans have their mysticism, but it is the mysticism of scholars, expounded in learned treatises, and enshrined in huge tomes of psychological lore. The happy French peasant has the exquisite religious legends and his quaint tales of Loop-Garren and Fairy Tree, the Scandinavian, his myths of sun and sea, and vague memories of Viking sagas. But in the mysticism of the Irish Celt has been kept fresh in the hearts of the people from time out of mind, handed down, adapted and embellished with each successive age, and permeates his entire life and character, showing forth at all times in some phrase or custom, deeply religious or merely sportive, as may be, from the heartfelt "God save you kindly," spoken to the passing wayfarer, to the most fanciful pranks and tricks practiced on the young folk on All-Hallows-Eve. According to the ancient Druidic rite, the year was divided into two parts, summer and winter, Geimrad and Samrad. The summer began with May Eve, which was held the great festival of Beltane, the feast of worship and of the fire god and the sun. Then the Druids lit the great fire at Tara, which was the signal of fires to glow on every hill, making the whole country a blaze of flame. For these sacred fires were taken brands with which to kindle new fires in every home. The custom of lighting bonfires on May Day, either of straw in some farmyard or perhaps a burning bush in the fields or the crossroads, has not yet died out. Around this fire the young people dance, and through it the young men leap. Children are passed through it to preserve them in the spells of witchcraft. All these things, unknown, perhaps, to the participants, being relics of the olden time Druidic rites and custom in honor of the sun. The second season of the year was ushered in by November Eve. O'Brien calls it Oldig Shamna, All Saints' Eve, and the O'Reilly's Irish Dictionary. Samhain is translated All Hallows Tide or All Saints' Tide. Samhain is said by O'Donovan to be derived from Sam, summer, and Fuin, end. The month of November was a time of solemnity and importance among the Druids. It was called Midub, or the month of mourning, because during this time prayers were offered to the spirits of those who had died during the previous year. At this time also these spirits, according to Pythagorean doctrine of the transmigration of souls, were called to judgment and assigned to the mortal body, human or brute, according to the merits of their past life, which they were to occupy during their next period of life. It was a time of great exhibition of mystic power among the Druids. Magic, charms, foretelling of coming events, and incantations held full sway. Kings consulted them about their wars and their destinies. The ancient militia went into winter quarters, O Aldig Shemhua Go Belin, from All-Hallows-Eve until May Day. Great feasts were held, at which those poets and learned men assisted. On the day following Samhain, a black sheep was sacrificed to the spirits of the departed. Valency alludes to the continuance of this custom in his description of various usages of the Irish peasantry on All-Hallows-Eve. They used to assemble and go about with sticks and clubs, demanding money, cake, butter, eggs, or other articles, in the name of St. Columcille, and advising the people lay aside the fatted calf and bring forth the black sheep. The women were employed in making bread and griddle cakes and candles, which latter were distributed among the neighbors. Before these candles, when lighted, the recipient was expected to pray for the giver. At this time, the Druids kindled fires, brands of which were distributed to the people which renew their household fires. A sort of relic to the custom is still said to exist in some parts of Ireland, where fires are lighted, in the market squares of towns, or at crossroads or greens in the country, burning portions of which the young men fling about at each other in sport. The first day of November was dedicated to the spirit of fruit and seeds, from which, no doubt, originated the custom of eating nuts and apples on Hallow-Eve. It was called Lama Sabal, the day of apple fruit. This word, pronounced lamabul, was corrupted by English settlers into lamb's wool, which name was to give a drink made of apples, sugar, and ale. So the apples are still eaten on All-Hallows-Eve, but merry company in the farmhouse kitchen in Ireland, and the young Irish girls would peel one carefully, taking care to keep the skin whole, which, when cast over the shoulder upon the floor, will fall into the form of the initial letter on her future husband's name. Or she will take the nuts piled so plentifully upon the table and burn them on the great bar or hearth, and try to read her future in their ashes, while her companions are settling nuts in pairs together in the same place, naming them carefully, and watching to see whether they will burn pleasantly together or jump apart. If these rites fall, she will steal into an upper room, or perhaps into the lime kiln, for one be near, and throw a ball of yarn into the darkness, retaining one end, which she will wind until she is called or questioned by the spirit who will take hold of the other end, and from whom she will ask the name of a man who she is to be wed. If the demon himself appears to her, she will die during this year. Another girl will look to see the apparition of her future husband appear while she winnows a riddle of grain and sows hemp seeds into the dark field, and then glances fearfully over her shoulder. And going back to the farmhouse, these tempters of fate will meet the others who have been in the cabbage field and each pulled a stalk, which she will examine the light to see whether the husband fate has in store for her will be tall and straight or ugly and crooked. And together they will return to the kitchen, where the sportive spirits are ducking for apples in a great tub of water, or trying to bite the apple, which rests on one end of the whirling stick suspended from the ceiling. If they miss the apple, they will surely be burnt by the lighted candle, which is flaring on the other end, or a mishap will occasion much laughter amongst the rest. Another group may be melting lead and pouring through a door key in the basin of water, and making many wise prophecies from odd shapes into which it falls. On a distant table are placed 3 plates, containing respectively water, earth, and salt, and an anxious questioner of the future is being led up to them blindfolded. If he touches the water, he will be safe and happy during the coming year. The salt will certainly bring him riches, but alas, if he puts his hand into the earth, he will surely die. The good wife of the farmhouse will always prepare for her household at this season a huge platter of coal cannon, made of potatoes, boiled and mashed with onions, parsley, and sometimes other vegetables, and well seasoned with salt and pepper. This good and wholesome dish is religiously partaken of by all. When the jolly night is spent, and the revelers are returning homeward, they must watch carefully for the fairies, who are abroad in the dark openness tonight, especially the dark, fierce Fuka, the fairy horse. But the mortal sees the fairies first, and throws them at some of the dust taken from under his feet. They will be obliged to surrender any mortal whom they have ever captured and carried off to live with them in their fairy palace in the cleft of the hills, and circle with them in the merry dance in the enchanted hill by the moonlight.